Today, we are going to learn how you can critique the reasoning of others. In other words, we're going to learn on whether or not a person is correct if they make a statement about a line plot. The line plot shows the amount of rainfall for 2 months. Val said, and this is her statement, the total rainfall for February was greater than the total rainfall for January because 7/8 plus 7/8 equals 14/8. And the highest rainfall for January was 5/8. So basically, she is saying that since both of the 7/8 was the highest for February and 5/8 was the highest for January, she is saying that February is greater than January for the total rainfall. So is she correct? Well, Val compared the two highest amounts of rainfall for each month, but did she compare the total rainfall? And it's asking for the total, not the highest. So no, she is not correct. Okay, we're going to see why. She compared the days with the greatest amounts of rainfall for the 2 months. The days with the greatest amount of rainfall are not the total for the months. What Val should have done is added the amounts of rainfall for each month. Then compare the amounts. So if we look at January up here, we have 1/8 3 times. So that's 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. We have nothing for 2/8. For 3/8, we have that 3 times. So we have 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 3/8. And then we have 1/5/8. So if we add all that up, we end up with 17/8. Now we don't have to change it because we're just comparing. All right, now let's look for February. So in February, for the total amount, we have 1/8 twice, so 1/8 plus 1/8. Then we have 5/8 once. Then we have 7/8 twice, which ends up with 21/8. Therefore, the actual total amount is that February with 21/8 inches is going to be greater than the 17/8 inches of January. So Val is incorrect because she did not use the question, or she did not answer the question correctly. Now let's find the difference. During February, there was 21/8 minus the 17/8 that was in January. So there is a difference of 4/8 inches more rain in February than in January. So the big thing is when you're watching or when you're reading, you need to make sure that you're answering what the question is asking. If you listened to this and you are following along, please draw a circle around right next to B where it says how I can critique the reasoning of others. Now let's look at the bottom of the page where it says convince me. Bev thought January had more rainfall because it rained on 7 days and February only had rained on 5 days. How do you respond to Bev's reasoning? Well, she is counting the days, not adding the total amounts. And if we want to find out who had more rainfall, what we need to do is we need to actually add up the total rainfall like we did in the previous problem. And we know in the previous problem that in January it rained 17/8 inches, where in February it rained 21/8 inches. So even though it rained less days in February, it's still the total was more because it rained more on each day. So Bev is incorrect because instead of counting the dots or the number of days that it rained, she should have added up the totals. Please write this statement in your book. Bev is incorrect because even though it rained more days in January, the total rain was less than it rained in February. Also, right underneath it, write the color green. Let's do the guided practice together. At a dog show, a judge wrote down the heights of 12 dogs. Cole made a line plot of the height shown to the right. He concluded, and this is his statement, the height with the most dots is 1 1/4. So that is the greatest height of the dogs at the dog show. What is Cole's conclusion, and how did he reach this conclusion? Okay, he concluded since 1 1/4, I just could not fit it in there, so you can write it in with your sentence, has the most dots, it is the greatest height. Well, is this the greatest height? Think about it. The answer is no, it is not the greatest height. He is not correct. He is not correct because the greatest height would be, whoops, sorry, I'm going to erase that for you. There we go. Because the greatest height would be 3 feet. He's not answering the question that it's asking. 1 1/4 is the most common height, not the greatest. So we're going to write that down. So no, Cole's conclusion is not correct because 1 1/4 is the most common height, not the greatest height. All right, you are going to do the problem on page 611. When you are finished, come and show me. Make sure you're underlining the question and circle the information that you need. Make sure you are answering the question that the problem is asking.